It has begun! A new action reaction of Mortal Kombat. Here we go. Mortal Kombat is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, stars Christopher Lambert as Raiden, Robin Shou as Liu Kang, Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage, Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung, Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade, Talisa Soda as Katana, Trevor Goddard as Kano, and Chris Kamasa as Scorpion. Based on the popular video game of the same name, Mortal Kombat tells a story of an ancient tournament where the best of different realms fight each other. The goal? 10 wins to be able to legally invade the losing realm. Outworld so far has collected 9 wins against the Earth realm, so it's up to Lord Raiden and his fighters from Earth to stop Outworld from reaching their final victory. So yeah, that's the cast and crew of Mortal Kombat, and that's pretty much what it's about. Mortal Kombat came out in 1995. I first saw this on pay-per-view when I was a kid, and this got me into Mortal Kombat. So how does it rate nowadays? It is a bit dated, it does feel a bit 90s, however, it is still a well-crafted action movie, probably one of the most serious and just best video game adaptations out of any, really. I mean, this was the first one to really take it seriously and really make a good, entertaining film. I mean, there's a lot of video game movies that are horrible, and it really says something about the genre that after almost over 22 years, this film still stands up the way it does today. Now, of course, it was a popular game, and Paul W.S. Anderson directed this. He was known as Paul Anderson back then, and of course he has done Resident Evil, Alien vs. Predator, and Event Horizon. But here, he was fresh and up and coming. He did a movie called Shopping, which it stars Jude Law, and it was one of his earlier movies. And he really creates a visual flair here. He also brought some European techno music in there. You have a KMFDM, Joint Jezebel, Gravity Kills in there. The Immortals do the iconic Mortal Kombat theme, that Mortal Kombat! Above all, it's a very intriguing story. It starts off with Liu Kang's little brother, the main protagonist. He has a dream of his little brother getting killed by this sorcerer named Shang Tsung. Some kids out there may recognize him as Johnny Tsunami's grandfather. But yeah, he's great as Shang Tsung. He really does a great job. And Liu Kang goes back to where he's from. He's in America, and he has to go back home to basically help defend the Earth realm. So it starts off with different characters. It does a good job of introducing different characters. You have Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage introduced, and then you have Lord Raiden, played by Christopher Lambert. He has so much charisma in this. I mean, he's the Highlander. Sonya Blade, Bridget Wilson, you may remember her from Last Action Hero. She was later on in The Wedding Planner. Lyndon Ashby, Styles' father from the Teen Wolf show. He's also in Resident Evil Extinction. He's Johnny Cage. Adds a lot of personality. Has probably the funniest lines in the film. And they have Scorpion, Sub-Zero. They're all cool. Above all, it's a very well done story. It's pretty much like a 90s video game action-packed version of Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. It very much has that Enter the Dragon film with some fantasy elements added in there. And I think that's what helps strengthens this film, not only as a video game adaptation, but as an action film. Above all, say what you will about the story, the dated CGI, but the action still holds up. The choreography is amazing. Robin Shou also helped do the choreography. He previously starred in The Jungle Book, and he also later on ended up being in Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li. This movie was a staple growing up. It's one of my favorite films. I would give it a perfect score, but just based on it, with the story and everything, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5. Even though the action is a 5 out of 5, that is my score, a 4 out of 5. But this movie has a lot going for it. It stays truthful to the characters, whilst taking some few embellishments. Actor who plays Kano did a fantastic job, so much to the point where Kano is a Japanese guy, and they made him into an Australian guy in the video games after this film. Plus, this is one of my favorite roles of Christopher Lambert besides Highlander. But you pretty much have these characters having to work together and defend Earthrealm. And once they start doing that, once they see their friends die and know the stakes, things get really intense in this tournament. You also have Talisa Soto, who is previously in License to Kill, and she's also in Ballistic X vs. Sever. She plays Princess Katana. She does a good job. She doesn't get that much action, but is a good love interest for Liu Kang. But above all, the soundtrack with the action and stylization, cinematography is just great. The practical animatronic effects on Goro look amazing. He's a bit thinner and weird looking, but I like the effects done in the fight scenes and just overall some of the fatalities and stuff. I mean, they pretty much had to tone it down for film to make it PG-13, but the fight scenes that stand out is a Johnny Cage Scorpion fight scene when they go to that underworld. That is just some brutal fighting. Liu Kang versus Reptile, Liu Kang versus Sub-Zero. Who could forget that final fight between Shang Tsung and Liu Kang? I love it with the music and it going all over them in a 360-degree angle. Just some amazing choreography in this film, and it's an enjoyable film. I mean, the biggest sin a film could have, and an action film could have, is being dull. Mortal Kombat, the 1995 Mortal Kombat, is not a dull film. It is a highly enjoyable film. Get some pizza and just chill out with a soda or beer and watch Mortal Kombat. So I give it a 4 out of 5. It's just a shame that Paul W.S. Anderson did not stay on for the sequel. I think that's why he stuck on Resident Evil much after its welcome was long gone, because of what happened with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Now, Annihilation did have some good action scenes, but what makes a good action movie is if you have a good story. Mortal Kombat is that film. So what is Mortal Kombat about? Mortal men and women defending our realm. It's not about death, but life. It has something that is only in the 90s. It really is a product of its time. And it really shows that Paul W.S. Anderson, when he's not writing a script, when it's just like a producer and just him directing, he can really make a solid film. And just the visuals and everything are well done. A lot of practical effects, even though there is some dated CGI, that's to be expected after Jurassic Park and T2 in the 90s. This is a solid film. The fighting, just everything about this is awesome. Who could forget that ending? Just when you think it's all over, you have that song playing. It's like the one from Hackers. And then you just hear Shao Kahn rises like, "You weak, pathetic fools. Your souls are mine." And then Christopher Lamb's like, "I don't think so." It's just like, sequel setup, except without the same cast. But yeah, the cast do a great job in this. They're the characters they're supposed to be. There's a lot of charisma between all of them. The editing with the music, the choreography, the soundtrack is just awesome. And yeah, Mortal Kombat is one of the better video game movies, and it's just an enjoyable action film on its own. So I give it a 4 out of 5. If you're a 90s kid, you know how freaking awesome this movie is. And yeah, there's nothing like freaking martial arts films in the 90s. But if you haven't seen Mortal Kombat, I would highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of the game. If you have not played the game, play the game and watch the movie. It's not bad. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what are some of your favorite moments in Mortal Kombat? What did you think of it? And what's your favorite Mortal Kombat character? Anyway, the soundtrack is also a great soundtrack. So many artists in there. You also have George S. Clinton doing soundtrack score. I love his score. That that one widescreen shot with Liu Kang going up the steps is just perfect. Also, who could forget Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade? She is just a badass Sonya Blade. She has the right attitude, the humor between her and Johnny Cage and their romance, and that fight with Kano where he's like, "Give me a break," and he's just like, "I'll give you a break," and she snaps his neck. But yeah, the soundtrack is great. You have Gravity Kills, KMFDM, Psycho Sonic, Tracy Lords, Orbital, Utah Saints, GZR, Fear Factory, Sister Machine Gun, Typo Negative, Napalm Death. Oh man, the Immortals, Mortal Kombat. Who could forget freaking Goro's theme by Buckethead? And then you also have Mother's Day Out with What You See. I love that scene with the Sonya Blade scene. All around great soundtrack. So if you haven't seen the film or have seen the film, you know what? Check out the soundtrack. It has an equally great soundtrack that's highly enjoyable as well. Go check out Mortal Kombat.